All right. I'm so excited to be here with one of my favorite people, Kate Jaramillo. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks, Dr. Melissa. Always good to talk to you. I'm so happy to be here.
So good to see you. So Kate and I, of course, had some fun hangout time before we hopped on here. I met Kate about a year and a half ago. We were both on an incredible women's online health summit. Just instantly felt rapport with you, Kate. One of my favorite things is we're literally on this call, this interview for this big summit, and your baby's sleeping in the back on the bed.
He was.
What if he wakes up? What is she going to do? Just cool as a cucumber. Like, couldn't have cared less. You knew he was safe. You knew if he woke up, you were with him. Just one of the things I admired about you, I feel like you are one of those moms that does it all. You've got 4 kids, mompreneur, running a business. And then, what's really cool is that you are very real. You're very down to earth. And I think you're amazing at simplifying things that may seem complicated to people and helping people try things that they may have never thought possible. And so that's why I'm super pumped to bring you on here today. We're going to talk about ketogenic living. We're going to talk about doing it simply. We're going to talk about your new book about keto comfort foods. And then we're going to talk about filling your pantry and keeping grocery shopping simple, which I think are just, amazing topics for people thinking about ketogenic lifestyle or fasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. I'm ready to go. And thanks for all the compliments. I received them and I love them. And I wish I could keep you in my back pocket all day.
Awesome. All right. So let's get started. Why don't we just start with, kind of a general background of how you got into ketosis and maybe your misconceptions before you knew much about that and fasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been a fitness instructor for like 15 years and always working in gyms. People were always asking me like what they should eat around their workouts. And I just shared what I was eating around my workouts. And at the time it was following like what a lot of us were told to do for a long time, which was, those 6 small meals a day and eating frequently to keep your metabolism active. I believed it too. And so that's kind of what I was telling people. And then I was like, I don't feel good about calling myself a health coach when I don't have any other knowledge other than like what I'm doing or what some companies that I've been affiliated with the past are doing. So I went on and I studied under Dr. Josh Axe, and I got my nutrition certificate through his school. He's the one that turned me on to keto. And what caught my attention is that he said, keto is the protocol that I use with my clients that have the most amount of weight to lose and want to lose it quickly. I had been working with a group of women who were just completely plateaued in their weight loss journey. No matter how hard they worked out, no matter how hard they really tried to stay in specific calorie goals, whether it was very low calorie goals or even, reverse dieting, higher calorie goals, they just could not lose another pound. So when I heard about keto, it really flipped everything that I knew or thought about healthy nutrition and healthy eating on its head. Because, here I am eating these 6 small meals a day and making sure eating like low fat foods, low calorie foods, a lot of foods that were higher in carbohydrates, and making sure that I was eating a lot of carbs throughout the day to, again, keep up my energy. Also, I'm originally from Hershey, Pennsylvania, like legit grew up with chocolate milk in my bottle. And I've always had this massive sweet tooth. My family is a big like dessert eating family. I always had those like little Debbie snack cakes and things like that in our pantry. So I thought it was normal too, to always have something sweet after every meal to kind of close the meal and feel satisfied. So these are all things that I'm reading and I'm researching keto. It made sense to me. It made sense how, sugar burns really quickly, that carbs, when you eat them, they turn into sugar. It burns very fast, and fat is a slow burn. So you stay fuller longer. That made sense to me. It also made sense to me when I was looking at some of the like disease treatment and prevention. Not that I'm not saying keto cures anything. However, as I was researching that and specifically for like things like cancer, and we know that cancer cells really feed off of sugar. So to not put sugars in our body or put things that turn into sugar quickly into our bodies would stop the speed, it would starve cancer cells. That made a lot of sense to me. So I'm talking to my clients, and I said, listen, just go along with this. I think I may have stumbled upon something that will help you break through that plateau. And I know it's against everything that I've been coaching you on, but I think it might work. If you'd be willing to come with me for like 8 weeks, I'll write up meal plans, give you some recipes, we'll work out. But I think that this could work. So 9 women said yes. 6 of them finished this 8-week program that I did. The average amount that these women lost, and they had some to lose, but like the average amount that they lost was 20 pounds. 20 pounds in 8 weeks after being plateaued for so long. So for me, I did lose a little bit of weight, but that really wasn't my goal. I was a fitness instructor. I've got good genes. I'm metabolically flexible. So I did lose a little bit of weight. For me, the biggest things that I achieved were like that sustained energy. I was no longer making another pot of coffee at 3 p.m. I didn't have that energy slump anymore. It was sustained. I was actually doing Facebook Lives about that. I went live like every day at 3 p.m. like, hey, I'm just checking in. The energy hasn't faded. It's pretty cool. And the craving for sweets had drastically gone down. I want to just be honest, it didn't go away completely. And I did rely on the sweeter fat bombs for probably 6 months of my journey, but I was very addicted to sugar. And then it just stopped. I just didn't want them anymore. And I found that even in recipes, I was using less and less of the sweeteners, like the keto approved sweeteners, until it just got to a point where I was like, oh, like berries are enough for me, or a scoop of like nut butter makes me feel really good, or nothing at all and just water. But that's really been my journey and some of the biggest things that have changed for me.
Amazing. Incredible. So many things there. I love that. So just going back, you took these women who had plateaued, like you said, and I think one of the things that probably really helps them is that it was something dramatically different, right? So to kind of like shock the system or reset the system,
yes,
have that dramatic loss. But there's something different that I know and that keto does, and it teaches our body to run off an entire different fuel system, like you touched on. So fat is a slow burn. It's a more sustained burn. And so in addition to the dramatic body changes that people who, have room to lose the weight or increase their muscle tone, you're absolutely going to see that because your body starts to run on fat. So it becomes a really efficient fat burner. Fat is a very efficient fuel source. So as you mentioned, Kate, your energy was the biggest thing that you noticed.
Yes.
For me as well, the insane mental clarity and peak energy. I have 3 kids, you have 4 kids, you're homeschooling, I'm now homeschooling. We're both working. And, literally, I feel like my secret tools are keto and fasting.
Yeah.
Like I have so much energy throughout the day. And so, I do love it for the effect that it has on my body, but really more for me is the energy, the clarity, the drop in inflammation, the health benefits, like you touched on, that we know. And so it's such an incredible system that we can use to change our health. Now, I think with that, what some people might think of instantly is, okay, if these women had this dramatic change because they were shocking their system, were they depriving themselves? So, is this lifestyle that they adapted, is it sustainable?
Yeah, I absolutely believe it's sustainable because I've now been doing this for 5 years myself. There's some tricks to this, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but it absolutely is sustainable because of the approach of eating real whole foods. So I feel very passionate about making sure that I'm still fueling my body with the cleanest, most nutrient-dense foods. And those do include certain fruits and vegetables. And so when we say that keto is a low carb food, people automatically think like, oh, it's no carbs and you can't eat carbohydrates. Or they think, okay, well, that just means like bread or pasta. I can't have bread or pasta, but I will eat all of the corn or the sweet potatoes or whatever else that I really want. And that will likely not put your body into a state of ketosis. Notice that I did not say that a food is keto or not keto, because nothing is. Steak is not keto. Keto is a metabolic state that your body adapts to. And when your body is producing ketone bodies in the absence of carbohydrates and the absence of sugar in your body, it's going to produce ketones for fuel. So I really feel passionate about looking at, like, when you're shopping in your grocery aisle, let's grab those, low carbohydrate, nutrient dense vegetables, spinach and kale and zucchini and broccoli and cauliflower. These are low mushrooms. These are all low carb foods that are super nutrient dense. Berries, amazing. They're very nutrient dense, like blueberries and blackberries and raspberries and strawberries when you can get them. And I really, really want to encourage you, when you can, to buy organic when you are buying berries, because they're sprayed and you eat the flesh like directly. It's not like a banana that you're peeling back. The animal fats and animal proteins, these are some of the most nutrient dense foods that you can get. Animal protein just has that great natural fat in it. I'm looking at things like grass-fed butter and coconut products, coconut butter, coconut oil, things like that. I mean, I'm really, and nuts and seeds. I am really not one to buy a lot of like the keto foods that you see in the aisles that are like packaged and processed. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to make things on your own and just rely on whole food sources. And I think with anything, that's where people kind of fall into that, well, you're not getting enough nutrients. Yeah. Well, if you rely on all of the frozen meals, just like other diet trends push, like those frozen meals and bars and things like that, like, no, you probably won't get enough nutrients. But when you rely on whole foods, what's better?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I know a lot of people talk about dirty keto as well. And that's, ketosis does get a bit of a negative connotation. It is a bit trendy. And I think a lot of trends come and go. The thing that's very different with ketosis, like Kate's talking about, is it's a metabolic state. And so, we are literally designed to use ketosis. So we are not meant to eat 6 times a day and rely on sugar and glucose as our fuel source, like we had all been taught when we were in the fitness industries, right?
Yep.
Eat small meals a day. Don't let your blood sugar drop and spike. I agree on the blood sugar drop and spike. Oh, yeah. We should not be reliant on food to set those parameters for us. So, with ketosis too, what's really important, and I know why both of us run groups and coaching programs on it, is it's so important to do it right, because you can be so close to the benefit and just missing the mark. And you're like draining your fuel sources just enough to have, feel deprived perhaps, and you're not kicking into that whole other fat fuel tank that gives you that energy and that clarity and the dramatic weight loss and muscle tone. We run off 2 main fuel tanks in our body. One is glucose, which we're all used to running off of, and one is fat. And so we constantly, it's like we wake up, we eat an apple, our blood sugar goes high. Eventually that sugar burns, it burns quickly. And we have low blood sugar, we're hungry again. We get foggy, we get tired. So we eat again, right? And same thing happens. And so when, Kate and I talk to people about ketogenic or fasting, if you're used to living off this system, fasting sounds so scary because you get low blood sugar and you feel awful. Well, you think about how could that make sense, for our species who we haven't genetically adapted in a long time. And so we still are, genetically the same as we were when we were hunters and gatherers. So you think about when we had to find our food, if our blood sugar went low, we got tired, lethargic, foggy, we wouldn't be able to go find food efficiently for our family. And so there's this whole other magical tank that we are intended to use. And when you completely drain that glucose tank safely, you start to use this other magical tank over here. And that is what ketosis is. You become metabolically flexible, meaning if you don't have access to an apple or a fuel source every couple hours, your body uses your reserves. Your body taps in. And not only do you not feel a slump, you feel crystal clarity. So fun. I mean, it's obviously you and I are both very passionate about it. We love the mental clarity. And now what I want to talk about is how to make it easy, right? So we live in the time of Pinterest.
Yep.
You can hop on Pinterest and it's like ketogenic recipes and oh my gosh, so perfect, but so overwhelming.
Yes.
So
And so many ingredients, and oh my gosh, can I just tell you that when I first started out on my journey, I was going to Pinterest. I would like make all of these things or buy, all of these things, right, that I didn't already have, or like had to order a lot of different stuff on like Amazon and stuff.
Xanthan gum is in everything. Like the
oh my God. Right. Which I don't even use, by the way. I use like cream
I don't either.
and which, yeah. Anyways, like I would spend like all this money to make like one meal. I'd put it in front of my kids and they were like, I'm not eating that. I was like, great. Awesome. Because I'm not cooking you other meals, but, it's simplicity is best. I mean, look, I mentioned earlier, like shopping the perimeter of the grocery store. So if you can make a list of low carb vegetables that your family likes, I mean, like lettuce, spinach, broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower, like those types of things. Again, we're nutrient dense. Then go for the berries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. Blueberries are definitely a little bit higher in carbohydrates, but you know what? They are packed with antioxidants, and there are easy ways to work them into your ketogenic lifestyle. If you buy a pint of blueberries and you want to make them for your family, awesome. Like sprinkle some on top of like some coconut cream, which by the way, this is how you make coconut cream. You buy a can of coconut milk, plain full fat coconut milk, and then you put it in the refrigerator overnight. And then the next day, it's cream. It's coconut cream. It's amazing. You don't need to like xanthan gum or anything else to like whip it up. It's literally refrigerator overnight. There's a bunch of like cans in my refrigerator because sometimes I want it and then I forget that it needs to sit overnight. But again, so simple.
What do you do to make it fluffy? Do you do anything? You open the can, just pour it out, and that's your
I just scoop it off the top. Because it's already like the cream, on the top. And then I save the coconut water because my kids really like it. So we'll put it in like smoothies. The baby is like really in love with coconut water. So, which is great for them. It's super hydrating and awesome for them. Yeah. So yeah. And I mean, like you can get good quality full fat coconut milk from anywhere that doesn't have a lot of ingredients on it. It should just be like coconut meat. Yeah. So just, look at the ingredients. But if you're just shopping for things that don't even come in a can and just come fresh, you don't have to even read ingredients. That's how simple things can be. So nuts and seeds, almonds, pecans are really great. Macadamia nuts are awesome because they're a really like little fatty source of nuts. Cashews are interesting because they are actually pretty high in carbohydrates and low-ish in fat count. So they're not really my favorite ketogenic nut. I eat a lot, and we eat a lot of like almonds and pecans and macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are a little expensive. So almonds and pecans, you can buy in a giant bag at like Costco for like $16. It'll last you forever. And from there, if you didn't want to buy nut butters in a jar, which you should because it's the easiest way to go, it should just have like nuts and maybe some salt and that's it as the ingredients. But it's so easy then to make in like a high-speed blender. If you just maybe roast the nuts a little bit, salt them with some sea salt and blend it, it's like so easy to call. So you always have it. And then as far as like, meats go, so I would look at like the fattier cuts of meats and proteins that, your family enjoys. Eggs, awesome source of fat and protein. And they're just so versatile. I mean, like we do so much with eggs in our house, like putting them in like frittatas or omelets or baking with them, or my Instant Pot makes the best hard-boiled eggs. And I mean, like so easy to use. So we like those. We like ribeye steaks or flank steaks. We love to get chicken with the bone in and the skin on. And then again, it's so easy to make. You can dry it, like open up the package, just like dry out the top of it a little bit, sprinkle it with some sea salt, put it in the oven 425 for like 40 minutes or so. And then you've got this perfectly cooked, crispy skin chicken. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you do it that way, it's not so expensive either.
No, it's like those cuts of meats are like super cheap. You can buy we like to have a bone-in and skin-on piece of chicken as long as it's very crispy and cooked in the oven. my family and I, we don't really like it if it's not like crispy.
That way
So
too. Mhm.
no, it's a lot. But you can buy like pre-frozen boneless, skinless or chicken thighs, which have so much flavor in them. So we'll buy like a bag of them on really crazy days. I'll just put it in my Instant Pot with a little bit of like chicken bone broth, and I set it. It cooks for like 15 minutes. I mean, the heat up and then the valve release. But
Right.
I mean, and then I just shred it, and then we put it in different things. It's so easy. Like some seafood, salmon is a really great piece of fish for you, skin on. And again, you can make it really crispy. So that's really great. Avocados, you can always buy those, serve them in different ways, smash them up for guacamole or just eat them plain. But I mean, it truly is like that easy. As far as like pantry ingredients, bone broth, really great. You can make your own, or, you can buy it. Everybody's selling it now, like even at Target and everything are selling it now. Coconut butter is great, like as a little scoop if you want something sweet. Coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil is good. Avocado oil, awesome to cook with, and it has a really high heat index, which means that it can withstand high heat when you're cooking at high heat. When you're looking for mayonnaise, I love mayonnaise. I think it's one of my favorite like condiments, but it's important that you buy the right type of mayonnaise. So you can make your own. I haven't been successful in making my own. I'm not a good mayonnaise maker, but Chosen Foods is a great brand. There's also Primal Kitchen, and they make their mayonnaise with avocado oil. I really want to stress how important that is, because a lot of other mayonnaises, organic or not, are made with like sunflower oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. These are like not good oils. They're not natural. They're super duper processed. Avocado oil is not, and it tastes great. It has such a good flavor to it. I mean, it's truly as simple as that. And like I said, like canned full fat coconut milk. If you're into baking, like almond flour and coconut flour can be sold, you can buy it anywhere. I mean, and it's just so easy. If you are someone who's not lactose intolerant, sadly I am, you can buy some really good, make sure it's like high quality, organic, full fat dairy products. So like heavy whipping cream, some good cheeses, like a nice Parmesan or something from grass-fed cows. Those are really nice fatty like snacks for you. There are some really good high quality, as far as like snacks go, there are really good high quality like beef sticks that you can grab, so that you can kind of just grab and go. I mean, when we don't really snack, but it never fails though. As soon as we like get in the car or an airplane, my kids are hungry. So we always bring things like nuts and seeds to snack on. But I mean, like truly that is it. And I've heard a lot of families and especially busy moms like us say things like, well, I really have got to get something on the plate quickly. And sometimes I've forgotten to make something or prep something, and they end up going through a drive-through. Well, so for us, fast food looks like us going and buying a rotisserie chicken, like a bag of spinach and some olive oil. And so when we put those things together, we have a super quick, super nutrient dense, delicious fat-fueled meal. And then maybe we'll have some strawberries for dessert.
Love it. Yeah, I think all those things you touched on, Kate, are so key, right? So just kind of going in reverse, we've got to have easy options, especially for people on the go, which, as we live this lifestyle more, like you said, our taste kind of gradually changes and our taste change. And I want to touch on that as well. But let's just first start with doing this with a family, right? So you've got kids and you're cooking for them. And so for you, I know you guys eat a lot of the same things. So let's talk about that. And then maybe if you have ideas for how people can start to get their kids over that way, in case their kids are, kind of eating typical American diet at this point.
Oh yeah. One of the mistakes that I made was when we first adopted this lifestyle, I did this pantry clean out and I was like, all this stuff is crap. And I got rid of a lot of things, and they did slowly creep their way back into our pantry, because my kids, it was such a change for them. They were like, we don't want to do this. Granted, we have always eaten a lot of like proteins and vegetables and fruits, but it was definitely a really big change for them. So what we did was we just talked about it openly as a family, And instead, I watched my language. So instead of calling food junk or crap, I just called it always food and sometimes food. Someone actually in my life had given me that piece of knowledge. I was like, that's awesome. So we call always food and sometimes food. This way too, my children, when they go to somebody's like birthday party or something like that, or we go to a restaurant and they want to order whatever they want to order, they recognize like, hey, I'm going to have some sometimes food. I'm like, great, like that's your choice. And sometimes I do still make them mac and cheese, like a gluten-free mac and cheese.
Your own shame out of it, right? Which is so important. If we're going to have some of that sometimes food, just to feel good about it. It's soul food, nourishing. Don't beat yourself up, whether you're an adult or a kid, right?
Yep.
Food habits in our kids, and just move on.
100%. There's like instilling that relationship with food, or like that, the lack of having a relationship with food, so important, like food neutrality. So, so we've got that always food and sometimes food. So what we talked about too was, hey, look, when this runs out, we're just not going to replace it. So that's what we did. Things ran out and we just didn't replace it. So I really want to stress too the importance though of like choosing proteins and vegetables and fruits that your family likes, and not just picking things because they seem healthy. You know, my children are not really huge fans of asparagus. We love it. So when we make it, we eat it, but they're eating things like they really love cucumber and they love to dip it in like Primal Kitchen's ranch dressing. They like carrots, which are kind of higher carb, but they like it. And I'm totally fine with them eating carrots. But what we've also done is I give them a little bit of, like I'll ask them which fruit and which vegetable they want at each meal. So it's not, hey, do you want fruit and vegetables? I'm saying, okay, this is what we have. Which one do you want? So they're still choosing. So even when they're like, I don't want this, I'm like, well, you picked it, so you got to eat it.
Yeah, I do something similar. I do when I bring them to the grocery store with
Mm-hmm.
because then they get to choose. And it's so incredible how from such an early age, like, you know, our kids do watch some TV, and it's amazing how if I just eavesdrop on some of the shows, they're already talking about Brussels sprouts are gross and broccoli's disgusting. And then there's the commercials of all the sometimes food. And it's crazy. And so I want to have these conversations with them of, oh my gosh, look at all this colorful food. And we should I let them choose, right? So they're in on the meal planning. And then like you, I give them a choice. So you know, with dinner, do you want carrots or cucumbers? So I use either or. You're having one or the other.
Right. Oh my gosh. My friends of ours were over, and they're friends of my daughters who are about the same age. And they came over and I was making them like, I don't know, like chicken quesadillas or something like that. Siete, by the way, like Siete brands, if you can get your hands on those, they make really awesome like almond flour tortillas and even cassava flour tortillas that are awesome. They're gluten-free. They're really great. But I was making them like chicken quesadillas. And I remember I was like, okay, which vegetables do you guys want? And they like gave me this weird look, and they looked at their mom, and their mom like looked at me, and I was like carrots? You know, like, but, and they did, and they ate them all and everything. And their mom was like, oh, like my kids like never eat vegetables. Like that was really great how you just asked them which one they wanted. I was like,
So a lot of times we don't give them enough credit. You know? Like nutrient-rich food tastes really good.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can pair it with some ranch dressing, or we use a lot of hummus and guac in our house. We're big on our kids getting fat. We want fat first. And we're big on just educating them again about the importance of fat and fueling your body. And we talk a lot about, oh my gosh, my body feels so good for what I just ate. Kids are listening, and they're little sponges, and we are their role models. And so I think we really don't always give them enough credit for their ability to make really good food choices with using our language very mindfully.
Absolutely. Sometimes when I'll take a picture of something, you know, like Instagram food porn or something. And it'll be something like, you know, spaghetti squash with like pesto and chicken thighs or something like that. And like, I've gotten this, like, did your kids eat that? I'm like, yeah, like that's something that they really love. And it's not that they have these like super adult taste buds. It's that this food tastes good. It's fatty. It's flavorful. I think that sometimes we think that a bowl of like pasta with just some like, I don't know, like butter or cheese or something like that is it. It's so funny too. Cause and I know you know this, when you go to like restaurants to order and you're looking at the kids menus, you're like, what even is this? Like, I feel like you said, like they just don't give kids enough credit for like actually choosing good foods. Like that we're always ordering off of like the adult menu. Because my kids are like, I don't want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I want like a steak. Like, great.
Food. Yeah. And so I think, you know, with all those things, it's really nice that we can have a gradual process to get our kids there. If we're starting from point A, you know, let them watch you, let them watch your food changes, and really talk about how the food helps you feel and how you're fueling your body, because that can inspire our kids to start to kind of taste test some of that other food. And like you said, Kate, it tastes good. And so usually there's not as much resistance as people might think. I always find too that if I'm going to try a new food for our kids, I do it when they're really hungry. Right? So that's always good.
Yeah. Yep. Same.
I used to, when I would pick them up from nursery school, I knew they were starving. And so I would make it a point, I'd bring baggies of veggies, because I'm like, they're going to be hungry and this is what they're going to eat. They're going to eat whatever I'm going to give them. So why don't I give them exactly, you know, the best food that I think they should have?
Yeah.
So that's the time. Hit them when they're hungry.
Yep. Hit them when they're hungry. That's awesome. That's gold.
So I know you talked about at the beginning being a previous sugar addict, right? You grew up on chocolate milk, had the little Debbies. I did as well. Yeah. All those things. And, you know, I think for me at the beginning, when I heard these words like spinach and kale and broccoli, and I thought deprivation. I thought chicken and salad. And I think a lot of people too, if they're thinking about embarking on this journey, and they imagine their little plate of food and the rest of their family eating spaghetti and meatballs and all these things. And so let's talk about that. And with that, do you have your book with you?
I do.
Okay, so hold up your book. Your book is so full of delicious food that blows that stereotype away. So I actually have my electric version copy right here. Buttery cauliflower mash, cauliflower mac and cheese for those that can have dairy, zucchini fries, cheesesteak stuffed peppers, prosciutto, sausage stuffed mushrooms, spaghetti and meatballs, beef stew, lasagna, sloppy joes, shrimp fried rice, shrimp scampi, beef stroganoff, and that's not even the desserts. The desserts are brownies, mug cake, rice pudding, cheesecake. Like, there is no need to feel or fear that you need to be deprived living a ketogenic lifestyle. So how did you start to bridge that gap between feeling like you were coming off of sugar but not feel deprived? Yeah,
I went to Pinterest, you know, I was like finding all kinds of crazy recipes. And I actually just started to like Googling like fat bombs. And I was really relying on those fat bombs for a little while to have that sweet bite of food after each meal.
And what's a fat bomb? Let's just touch on fat
bomb. Sure. So a fat bomb is usually like this little like circular dessert type of thing. And it's really loaded with fat first. So a lot of the recipes use like a coconut oil, or they're using like a nut butter, maybe a keto friendly sweetener. So these are like erythritol, stevia, most natural sweetener that you can find, stevia. Don't buy stevia in the raw because it's bulked with like other things, but stevia drops are really great. Xylitol is one of those. I have to say this about xylitol though. If you have dogs in the house, xylitol is not the best thing to keep in the house because it is toxic for dogs. And everyone reacts to sweeteners a little bit differently. We're all biologically individual. So xylitol, even though it makes the most delicious, sugar-free, keto-friendly like ice cream recipes, it makes me run to the bathroom. Like xylitol just upsets my stomach.
Yeah, I think a lot of people react that way. You think about shit that's toxic for dogs. I don't know. Like, right, exactly. No. I use stevia. I love stevia. It works.
Me too. Stevia and monk fruit. I really love monk fruit. I think that for me has been a really good one. I used to use erythritol like a lot as my sweetener. And what was really weird is when I was pregnant with my son, anytime I used it, I would get a massive headache. So again, like you just said, if xylitol is toxic to dogs, I wonder what it does to humans. And I was like, a lot of erythritol is corn-based. And so I was like, oh, I wonder if it's that. But I definitely just don't feel super good eating it. But these are sweeteners. But erythritol is going to be one that you find easier in stores. There's a brand called Swerve, and you can find it pretty much everywhere. But monk fruit, I feel like, is gaining some popularity too, and you should be able to find that in stores. If not, I mean, Amazon Prime, man, it'll be there at your doorstep in 2 days. So, so fat bomb, usually, you know, it's mostly fat. It's usually made out of like, you know, like a coconut oil, a nut butter. Sometimes it has a sweetener in it to make it sweet. You can also make them savory, like with, again, some, I don't know, some like eggs and bacon and ghee mixed together, something like that. But it is a bite, a bomb, usually like 2 or 3 bites, and it's just a big fat source. I think that these are especially beneficial for people who have eaten low fat for so long. And now it becomes a challenge to like incorporate more fats into your day. If you are starting off on this lifestyle and you're not feeling full very much, like if you're constantly feeling hungry, chances are you need more fat. You probably need more protein too, but like try and go with those healthy fats. So
when Jay and I started, you know, living a ketogenic lifestyle, the fat bombs were huge for us. So we made a big batch. They're almost like, they reminded me of like a Reese's Pieces.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we just had a big batch. We kept them in a baggie in the freezer. And so, you know, if 6 o'clock at night we had dinner and I just had that sweet thing, I would grab one, put some nut butter on the top, and it was fat, so it was fulfilling. It pulled that sweet tooth and just helped us get over the hump. We haven't stocked those in our freezer probably in years at this point.
Yeah.
I don't need it anymore. I know you don't either.
No.
One of those really, really good crutches to just help you get over the hump.
It is. You know, even those like the 100% like unsweetened chocolate bars, you know, you can make those sweeter, right? By like melting them down and adding in some sugar-free, like keto-friendly sweetener, stevia or whatever. But now if I really want like I mean, they're very bitter, but if I just break a tiny piece off and then I put some like almond butter or some peanut butter or coconut butter on top, and then I have a bite of that, that is enough for me. And speaking of like,
I bet your coconut cream would be so good.
So good. Or like, and like shave it over the coconut. It's so good. But that to me, like thinking back on like how far I've come and being all about like the milk chocolate bars, and now being like, oh my gosh, like that seems so sweet to me. I was also the kid that you would go to like a birthday party and I'm asking for like the corner piece of cake that has all of the icing all over it. Oh my gosh. I had a taste of that probably back in like December for one of my kids' birthdays, at their birthdays at school. And I was like, I tasted, I was like, oh my God, like way too sweet.
It definitely changes. I feel like there's now that too sweet, and then it does nothing for me. I feel like it coats your tongue. It's just like this gross sugar coating. Yeah. And it's empty. I get nothing out of it. Whereas if I have a small piece of dark chocolate, put some fat on it, it's like tiny bit, so satisfying, so delicious, good to go.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And look, I mentioned before, like not really falling into the hype of like buying all those keto products and stuff. I will say though that there's a company called Chalk Zero. Do you ever buy their stuff? Yeah. Chalk Zero, I think, has some really good keto friendly like peanut butter cups and things like that. Lily's is another one, and Lily's you can find at Whole Foods. But like, it's so sad for me because I used to be able to eat like the Lily's milk chocolate, but my body doesn't tolerate any sort of like milk products anymore. But I think that like, I wasn't supposed to have milk for as long as I did. You know what I mean? Like it was just
more in tune with your body.
Yeah.
Stuff changes, and you know, keto really has given me a very small window of tolerance for not feeling well. So I no longer feel, you know, especially with fasting, which is a whole other topic, but I don't ever feel deprived. I feel deprived when I don't have the kind of energy that I'm used to.
Yes.
Brain clarity. That to me feels like deprivation. However, at the beginning of all of this, I definitely needed, you know, there were some things that I used, and I fully encourage people to use them, that just helped me. So, you know, swapping out like the little handful of, you know, instead of chocolate chips that I kept, like getting, you know, brands like you mentioned, cauliflower pizzas and things like that. Just, you know, just to make the switch easier, because you don't have to sacrifice all these things, or like you said, you don't clean out the pantry completely. There's things to do this that are very realistic. and so worth it. And then over time, working towards, ideally organic at the beginning, but if it's not something later,
Right.
and more nutrient dense foods, your body just starts to crave.
Yeah. And for those who maybe are lactose intolerant and you maybe feel a little bit discouraged by seeing a lot of keto recipes that have a lot of dairy in them, what's great now is that there are a lot of like plant and nut-based products that are still pretty good. I mean, they're pretty clean. You can always use coconut cream in place of like heavy whipping cream. You can always use, there's a brand called Kite Hill that has almond-based like cheese products. I should like be paid by them. I endorse them so much. Like, but I buy like their almond cream cheese. I buy their almond ricotta. They have an almond sour cream. There's other brands of like cashew based. I mentioned that cashews, the nut, aren't super great for a ketogenic lifestyle because they are like pretty high in carbs. But I've seen a lot of like cashew based yogurts and things like that are pretty good. Almond or coconut based yogurts, get the plain kind of all of these things so that nothing's like, like added to them, no sweeteners or things like that. But I mean, these are awesome replacements for things like yogurt, sour cream, cream cheese, like all the things. There's even some good brands of like cheese shreds that are made from like almonds and nuts that I use I use them a lot. Like I should say all the time, but yeah, no, I use them a lot.
They all sound delicious. Love it.
Yeah.
So many good foods, so many good options.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely going to link to your book below. So many incredible recipes in there. I love that they're so easy. Last question, Kate, I think we should go over is if anyone's considering keto and on the fence, what would you say?
It doesn't hurt to try anything. What you have to lose is fat. what you have to gain is
brain fog.
What you have to brain fog, that energy crash in the middle of the day. I really want to encourage and empower you to give this a try, but go into it with the mindset of like, hey, I'm going to do this, not I'm going to try this. I am going to do this, but work with an expert. Like hire Dr. Melissa, stay with her, follow her guidance. It is so important to work with an expert because the truth is you can go buy any book, you can listen to a podcast, you can read blog articles, you can download all of the free information in the world that you want, but it's not specific to you. And when you're not feeling good, it could be for a variety of reasons that's not really diet related. I think that health is like an onion, right? We continue to peel back these layers sometimes and we find other things that are going on that have been covered by a bigger issue. And that's why it really is so important to work with an expert who can help you like notice things like, hey, I think you have a hidden food sensitivity here. Let's cut this food out for a little while and see, how you do. Or, hey, I noticed that you're not really drinking enough water, or you're not getting enough electrolytes, or, you're jumping into certain things because that's what's popular right now. Work with an expert who actually knows what they're talking about so they can guide you every step of the way. But just go into it with this attitude of like, hey, I'm going to make this work. And my goal is to become healthy from the inside out, metabolically flexible, so that when I choose to go off plan for however long that is, maybe it's the summer months when more fruit is available for you or something like that, or whether you go on a cruise and you want to come back and you want to get, right back on track with your lifestyle, it's easy because you've done it before and you know what you're doing and your body's ready to adapt.
Love it. I think that's so huge because, like you said, committing to it. I'm not going to just try this. I'm going to do this because there's times when we do anything that we're going to have a little bit of discomfort with change, right? Mm-hmm. Change for some people can be easy and change in other areas of our life can be a little bit bumpy at times. And so, knowing your commitment and especially I think knowing why you're doing it and maybe even write it down, write down the things that you're ready to get rid of. Is it that afternoon slump? Is it telling your kids you're too tired or not being able to have the energy to work out after work? Whatever it is, write those things down. So when you commit and the going gets tough, remember what you're working for, because so often if or when things are going to get hard, when you're getting into ketosis, it means you're just almost at that point where you're going to tap into that whole other reserve tank and life is going to be dramatically different. Love it. Kate, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your info. Definitely, guys, check out her book. It's incredible. So many great recipes. And as always, I love my time with you, sister.
Love you. So good to talk to you. Thanks for having me.